Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time round, we're checking out Mayhem Mansion. This is one of the stranger mods that I've played recently, and it's actually a remake of another game by the name of Exploding Lips. And going by that title alone, you know we're going to be in for something a little odd. Yes, that is a dancing television. And I've got absolutely no experience with the original version of this, but someone took it upon themselves to recreate it within Doom, so here I am. If I had to use one very specific word to convey the experience of playing through this particular mod, I would definitely use the word nonsensical, because firstly, it's a damn good word, and secondly, not a lot of stuff in this mod really seems to hold up to conventional logic. I mean, I'm fighting a pair of lips that pukes exploding minds here with what seems to be a cardboard or at least wooden sword, and you'll also spend a lot of time hunting down seemingly random items to put in specific places. So I've got to hunt down a lampshade artifact to put on that pedestal to unlock the next section, even though the room is already full of lampshade artifacts, and it just causes you to stop every now and again, scratch your head, and just go, what? After a while, you do acclimatize to the weirdness of Mayhem Mansion. You just learn to expect the unexpected, to roll with the oddness, and after a while, some strange kind of logic does appear, and of course, you occasionally need to find a gift for a cat. Basically, you're going to have to pay a lot of close attention to the areas that you're running through here, because occasionally you'll whiz past an item that you think is completely and utterly random, but turns out to be absolutely vital to your progression further on down the line. And the nature of the level design here means that you'll frequently crisscross back over areas that you've already visited, so you're really going to have your head screwed on straight if you don't want to suffer from a pretty chronic case of disorientation. During the course of Mayhem Mansion, you'll also come across coins, lots and lots of coins, and thankfully the use of these is pretty straightforward. You basically spend them in the shop, and shops will pop up at various points during levels, and you can basically use these to top up your ammunition, get special items like toilets, or just top up your health and your armor. More often than not, you'll also find that shops act as pretty good signposts for when the mod's about to get a little bit more hectic than usual, so taking a little extra time to top yourself up before wading into a new unexplored area is always well advised. But yeah, I can't stress the importance of gathering coins enough here. It's pretty much a vital resource, something that'll save you bacon further on down the line when the ammo depletes and the armor runs low. And it will, because this mod does have an escalating curve of encounters. It's pretty gentle at first, introducing enemies like these as glorified mini-bosses, but then they become much more frequent, and they also take a much bigger toll on your ammo pool.
Would still be herding sheep if I hadn't taken him under my wing and taught him the magical arts.
When it comes to the weapons that you'll be using during the course of Mayhem Mansion, they start off, relatively sane. You've got a shotgun, a sword and shield, you've got this crossbow here, and you'll find that some of the enemies are weaker to certain weapons than others. So the trolls here that have been taken down are very weak to the crossbow, and as a result they'll drop crossbow ammo, and that's kind of the sign that you need to look for with certain enemies. If they drop that particular ammo type, they tend to be vulnerable to the weapon that uses that kind of ammo. Not all enemies here drop ammunition, however. Some enemies, like the malevolent books here, will simply drop coins when they die and explode. Enemies like the lips will simply drop health potions, and in that case it's safe to kind of wail on them with whatever weapon you have to hand, but when it comes to tankier enemies, that's when you want to start using your alternate fire modes. The crossbow, for example, actually fires out explosive mines when you use the alt fire, and rather than draining from arrows or ammo, it actually drains from your magic pool, so it always helps to have a fair amount of all ammo types stocked as often as you possibly can. When it comes down to favourite weaponry, though, I've got to say the magic trumps everything else, because this is a flower pot that summons a hail of bombs on whatever target you strike, and this is a banana that summons a crowd of angry, exploding gorillas. What more is there to say? There's also another spell that you can cast, which summons an anvil, an ice anvil, and if you hit enemies enough times with it, it freezes them, and you can also shatter them with other weapons as well. And it's wonderfully absurd. I mean, that's of course something you can say about nearly every aspect of this mod, but that absurdity is what powers this mod. It's what keeps it going. It's what keeps you interested in it, because that disorientation that I mentioned earlier with the levels being kind of interconnected and crisscrossy does honestly get to you after a while, and it's the weirdness of everything on show that keeps you invested. It keeps you curious over what you're going to run into next, because it steadily doles out the oddness. It doesn't inflict all of it at once, and in that regard it's actually pretty well paced. And what I find quite funny is that in its original form it was apparently even more obtuse in terms of where you needed to go and what items you needed to put where. I can only imagine how frustrating that could be. So at the very least, I need to thank the person that brought this over to Doom for smoothing out the wrinkles somewhat, making it a little more player friendly. One thing that impressed me quite a fair bit about Mayhem Mansion here is just how much of it there actually is to play through. Now, I can't tell if this is as a result of the size of the original or not, but I've been playing this for about 2.5 hours now, and I've only gotten through the first 2 levels. I've recently started the 3rd, and there are 6 in total. This is pretty much an entire game that you're going to be able to get your hands on here if you're interested in it. And as a consequence, I'm unfortunately not going to be able to show you absolutely everything there is to offer, because I know from a little bit of dabbling into the later levels that there are more items that you can buy from the shop, undoubtedly more enemies that you'll be able to run into, and maybe even more weaponry that you'll be able to get your hands on as well. But personally, if you're interested in this, I'd say see how you feel by the end of the first level. If you're still enjoying yourself, then go nuts, play through the rest of it, because there is a hell of a lot here to enjoy. Before I sign off on this one, I thought I'd show you what one of the items you can buy does. And this is the mine, and as you can see, it has legs, obviously, because that's clearly what mines always have. And it'll run around attacking your enemies for you until it runs out of juice and just kind of explodes of its own free will, I guess. You may also remember I mentioned you can buy a toilet at the shop earlier, which is another deployable item, and I'm not entirely clear on what the effect of it is. I know it involves some form of explosive poop, but yeah, it's not quite on the same level of disgust as Nature's Call, but still, pretty unsanitary all the same. There are definitely many more items to buy and deploy in Mayhem Mansion, but I can't really speak to the quality or the entertainment value of them, because of course I've only been able to experience these first 2 levels. But if you're planning on giving this a whirl yourself, I heavily advise figuring out where your autosave key is, because this can occasionally get quite tough. The enemies can get a little overwhelming, and the ammo can get a little scarce. Also, there's a fair few environmental hazards littered through this as well, and the trudge between the autosave point and where you may have kicked the bucket can occasionally be a little long. So yeah, I'd make sure you sort that out before you dive in. But in either case, the link is in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to suggest any mod you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.